Hey guys, hopefully I'm speaking loud enough so everybody can hear me. I got an email from a gentleman by the name of Raymond. I'm going to read you the email. And it's actually kind of important because there's always new guys getting into something. And I remember how utterly fucking ignorant I was when I got my first Harley. I was totally as green as can be. I was just very enthused and didn't know a fucking thing. So I'm gonna read you the email and then we're gonna go over this beautiful bike. Let me read it to you. He's all, hey Todd, just a few quick follow-up questions for you on that bike. You mentioned in the original post that the belly numbers match. I do not mean to offend, as I know you're a straight up no-nonsense Ford kind of guy and you take your HD motorcycles very seriously, capital letters. But I just gotta ask the questions. Are the numbers legit, never re-stamped? Do the belly numbers match the engine number? You also said that it's an original untouched bike, to your knowledge. It was never restored or parts replaced. Any repop parts, or it's 100% OEM factory parts, or close enough to 100% at least. Original speedo, matching frame, etc., etc. How does the tank look as well? Where it was sitting, untouched for those 70 years. Any areas of significant rust or problems? Frame looks good to you. How many miles does it have on it as well? And just out of curiosity, you don't mind me asking, why are you getting rid of it? I do apologize if you answered some of this stuff in your video. I was working when I watched it and was running around the hospital and have to have the volume down. Wanted to watch when I get a few free seconds, but figured I would send you a quick message as well because it's most certainly a beautiful machine. I'm sure I'm not the only person interested. So, it's important to understand how to tell age. Here's a new part and here is an old part. They remanufacture the entire fucking motorcycle. Frame, cases, heads, everything you want, you can buy reproduction. Yes, you can. And if you don't know how to tell, then you don't know what's what. You got no clue in the world. So this is a perfect example of a very well aged bike that was stored in a very wet condition, which is why it has a lot of rust on it, which is going to make it very easy for us to tell that it's old. There are bikes like this, 70 years old, that look brand fucking new, but they still have age. Air, even in an environment like this, with a wood floor and air conditioning and sealed doors, it's still going to age. You can't stop the age. Cannot stop it. It's going to age. A brand new part. There are patina masters who, they do a really good job. But if you know what you're looking at, they still cannot get age back. Kitty poo, we're trying to make a video here. So I'm going to grab this camera. I'm going to go over this bike very carefully. And we're going to take the belly pan off again. So here we go. This bike was stored in the northwestern part of the US where it's very rainy. So in that area, you usually have paint that lasts. Okay, see all these chips and scratches? That's great. Can you see underneath the chips and scratches? See how it has little bubbles under it? Okay, paint is porous. In a moist environment, it's going to get moisture under it. It's going to bubble. You can't fake that. Absolutely cannot fake it. Bring me the paint meter, would you, please? On the right by my computer, there on the desk, in that little black thing. So, another thing you cannot fake. Absolutely cannot fake. If you start pulling a couple nuts and bolts off, see it has dirt and grime all around it. Can you see that? Bring me the little flashlight and put a little more light on this.
Yeah, there.
Okay. Yes, you're going to get the flashlight, so we'll get back to that. Now this little meter is a depth gauge. Modern paint guns can't spray to this depth. You got to sand it down. sanding it down leaves marks. This stuff was varnished over the paint. Okay? That doesn't mean it can't be thicker. Okay? I've seen original paint that is, these are microns, or I believe. Very, very tiny. Just put it in my back pocket.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to turn on, just put it there. And I've seen paint up to 6-7 microns thick. But modern paint guns normally spray between 10 and 20 microns. Whoops. So it's very difficult to fake original paint, even if you have original paint out of the original can and you spray it on your bike. You don't have the paint method that Harley used. I've posted it, I've made videos about it. Harley used these giant spray nozzles and went whoosh, whoosh really fast. And the guys were very skilled. If you do a job over and over again, you get really good at it. They were very, very skilled. Yes, they were. So, you can take this back. Come on. Off. There we go. Put that back. Now, what we're going to show you here is age. You're not going to reproduce the rust. The fact that this thing has been sitting there untouched, not turned, for 70 fucking years. You take this apart, there's going to be dirt and grime on those threads. On every thread. On every bolt. Over the entire fucking machine. I know, because I've pulled many of them apart. And you can't fake that. Absolutely impossible. Cannot fake that. So what I say is open your eyes. Have a look at this beautiful bike. It's obviously never been apart. Never, never, never. Okay, so do Speedos get replaced? Well, of course they did. They broke back then as now. Is that the original miles and the Speedos have never been replaced? Well, I'd have to pull the dash off, pull the Speedo off, check the date code, and maybe that tells me the Speedo's never been replaced. However, the bike itself looks to have that amount of mileage. When they were new and ridden and then put away, this is what you see. The chances of this bike being ridden into the 70s and then be put away, probably not. Because then it would be stored in a more damp area, not just in a garage, and you'd like outside, and you'd have a lot more paint damage. So this bike was stored like in a garage somewhere without a temperature control, humidity control, but inside. That's why the paint is still nice. Stored outside for decades, ain't happening, especially in a wet area. So one other thing, see this aluminum? I'm going to show you when I pull the belly pan off. See that corrosion? You ain't faking that, pal. That's called air and water in the air. And it corrodes the aluminum and gives this dark sheen to it. Some people like crusty machines. They're rare enough now, a pristine, like brand new bike, as opposed to a crusty bike, they bring the same value when it's all original. And they're old enough now. Even in Evo, if I had an early Evo, like an 84, an 85 or something, I don't care if a fuck how new looking it is, etc., and it's been sitting for 40 fucking years. If I want it to be reliable and not go boom on me, I gotta pull the whole fucking thing apart. Bearings seize. They have to turn. That's why they gotta come apart. You gotta replace your bearings. The oil gets acidy. It eats into the hardened races. It eats into the roller bearings, and they don't spin anymore, and then your case races come loose. So don't be stupid and just ride it. You got to pull it down to the bare frame and redo it. Will it start and run? Yes, but I ain't starting it. I ain't having to go boom on my watch. What do you think? I never started any of them fucking knuckleheads pretty much. Same reason. They all blow up on me. Every fucking one. Within 1,000 miles, I have a major problem because I didn't pull it apart. Anybody else who can get more out of it, good for you. Just doesn't work in my world. See the corrosion on the aluminum? So, is there any reproduction on this bike? Well, we're going to show you a little box of parts and explain some things in a minute. But we're going to start with these hand grips. These hand grips, and probably this control here, which I believe is original with reproduction grips. These grips have been replaced. They put a whole new spiral on. I'd have to pull the spiral off and check the machining to see. But what I can see visually, this is age, yes, but it's a different age in the handlebar. That tells me that this has been replaced. That doesn't tell me that this is reproduction. It has enough age where the control spiral itself, see if you look at the old chrome there, how it's got damage to it, you follow? That takes time. You're not going to recreate that damage on a new part. It takes years. So the spiral itself, okay, those are original. The grips are modern reproduction. But it comes with another set of grips that are the original grips. The grips themselves are hard to get off and you destroy them, which is why the gentleman put on a new set of grips. This came to me with very mild disassembly. The front crash bar is off, the rear crash bar is off, and the rear fender's a little loose because of that. That doesn't mean it's been off, it means it's loose. And it would be irrelevant if it had been taken off. It's still the bike, you follow? So, it came in a very packed collection. The guy does not like crash bars, and he literally has his bikes about 3 inches apart from each other. No room for crash bars. He had us over 100 motorcycles like that in a very small area. So, I've known about this bike for quite some time, quite a few years, and I finally got it out of him along with that Knuckle I picked up. So we're going to go over and pull the belly pan off, and we're going to have a look at that. Now I'm not showing the motor numbers because the title I have is in the gentleman's name my guy got it from, and he always asks me to retitle stuff because he doesn't want people looking up his people. So it's going to come with the title and my name, but it already has a title. I just got to get over to my title people and retitle it. Not a big deal. So anyhow, we put this over here, and we're going to get the bike and lay it on its side and pull the belly pan back off. Okay, I need you behind the camera, please.
Well, I'm coming.
I know you are. I didn't know you could do that.
What do you think I'm coming back here for?
Okay. So, the way to pull the belly pan off, you gotta lay the thing on its side. It's best if the handlebars are a little loose, so you don't nerf up the end. It can slide with the bike. They are a little loose. Have to bring it over very carefully and lay it on its side like that. See how the handlebars moved? This is original mirror, by the way. It says Harley Davidson right on it. They did make a later reproduction, which is a totally different mirror, although it still says Harley right on it. It's very obvious when you see them. There's a difference between early CAD and modern CAD. And when you've had this stuff as much of it as I have, you can tell 30s chrome from 40s chrome, from 50s chrome, from 60s chrome, from 70s chrome. Very obvious different processes. Very obvious different chrome. But you gotta know what you're looking at. That's called experience. So I'm gonna bring this over here. And if my lovey will come over here and be so kind as to guide the camera. So.
Can I take it off? You want to take it off?
If you need to. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Anyhow. Now some guys might go, what's the oil from? Well, facepalm. What's this? This is an oil tank. What the fuck do you think happens when a bike sits over 70 fucking years? All this oil goes into that lower end and out the breather. Well, where's the breather? In the primary cover. So when you lay it over, it's going to go all over the floor. It's called gravity. That's why an apple drops. Sir Isaac Newton figured that one out. Why it took the human race so long to figure out the obvious, I don't know. Come on, get on there. Yeah. Come on, come on, come on. All right, here we go.
TV out of here.
Now, when I pulled this off, it takes 2 motor mounts. Go ahead and bring the camera over.
Okay.
Out of the way. Out of the way! Okay, go ahead and bring the camera down. You got it? Let me flip it up for you.
How do I take it off? Let me see.
They're tricky. Hold on, hold on. There you go. Phoebe, out!
Phoebe
Okay.
thinks she has to supervise you.
Has to supervise everything. She's still a puppy. Okay. Now, go ahead and look down underneath here. Okay, I did not put these bolts back in. The reason being is you see all that dirt and grease? I'd cross-thread them. I've done it before. I'm not going to ruin
Get out.
original nuts and bolts. So all I got to do is pull these. Phoebe, go away! Front motor mounts. Here, now the factory ones. Okay, back up, woman. Go ahead and get me right here. The factory motor mounts always go from the bottom up. And it always has this little lock tab right here, which you'll see in a minute. You see that lock tab, chances are it's never apart because nobody bothers to put that bitch back on. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay. 1 and 2. Now, it took me over an hour to get all the grunge off of this to be able to do this. Now that it's ungrunged, it'll come right back off. Right? See all this crap? You ain't gonna fake that. Stop the bullshit. Ain't gonna happen. Anybody tells you, yeah, they're fucking lying sacks of shit. Okay? Now look at the frame. Look at the age on the paint. You cannot fake that. This is factory paint and it's a motherfucker to get off. Now look at the bottom of the cases. I'm gonna put the light on. And if you look carefully, the aluminum has the same age as the front. You're not gonna fake that. It's not gonna happen. It takes decades under the right conditions to age the aluminum like this and get this kind of rust on it. It's just not gonna fucking happen. So the guy was asking about belly pans numbers. What these were simply a manufacturing stamp. So when they machined everything at the factory and they had the right and left case just loose hanging on the shelf, they knew they had the right mate. That's all it was. That's all it was. And until these bikes became valuable, nobody fucking cared. So you're not gonna take this bike and blow it up in 1970 when it was worth about $300, if you're lucky, because nobody wanted the early Panheads back then, or the Knuckleheads, and match the belly numbers. Just didn't happen. Did not fucking happen. So let's say it happened in, shall we say, 10 years ago. Well, you're not going to put this kind of age of grime and grease and crap on a bike in 10 years. It's going to be all new and oily and new looking. You follow? And if you did it, you're going to seal it with modern gaskets and modern gasket material, and it just doesn't leak the same way. You can't not duplicate this. Oh, she's got a flashlight. See the corrosion in the aluminum? You cannot duplicate that. It's just not possible. You cannot duplicate this kind of age on a machine. And it tells anybody with an eye in their brain that this is an original bike. Never been apart, never been molested. Look at all that oil that's built up. That takes time. You cannot replace that. Cannot replace that age. Impossible. Cannot be done. Okay? So there it is. This is the bike. And the same thing. I'm not going to show the whole number, but look at the 50. You can tell it's never been fucked with. Look at it. Can I? Well, not I, because I'm not a skilled welder. Have I seen it happen? Yes. You can take brand new stamps, they make them, take a fucked up number job, rebuild the boss, repatina it, and put the numbers back in it. And you can shot peen it, and you'll never ever be able to acid test or anything and tell that they've been done. What you can tell is, gee, it looks brand fucking new. You can't put this kind of age back on it. Ain't gonna happen. Fucking possible. Just not gonna happen. Not gonna happen at all. Anybody tells you otherwise, and I know some fine patina experts, real skilled patina experts. Anybody tells you otherwise, you're fucking lying sacks of shit. Because there's always going to be somebody going, Todd's full of shit, blah, blah, blah. Okay? That's just because they're trying to scam you. They want their scam to be real. You follow? That's how they get away with it. So there it is. They don't even have a busted fin on the heads. These heads have never been off. Never been off. So when heads have never been off, you know how you get them off? You got to take all the head bolts out, leave your base nuts, leave your push rods, and kick the bike over. Got to turn it over. And the push rods will pop the heads loose for you. Otherwise, you're going to break those fins. You will break those fins. Yes, you will. So that's that. There it is. You know, look at the age from just having had the saddlebags mounted. You're not going to patina that. This leaves rust and grime in through the paint. You cannot fake that. Impossible, guys. That's how I know. I use my eyes in my 40 fucking years in the business with thousands and thousands of machines, and I don't even know how many thousands of original paint machines I've had to be able to go, yeah, boom, there it is. I know what it is. Okay, I'll take that. So you can either trust somebody with experience or you can go find your own doctor. See you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.